quick behind the scenes. We're doing a behind the scenes as we get interviewed by BMORE News Online with Doni Glover. If you know, you know. So can we watch as this interview goes?
Yeah, excited for this one. All of them, really. This will be good. Today we'll be talking largely about the West North Avenue Development Authority subsidy that was provided to us to help build some houses for Coppin State University and that live at Coppin footprint, along with state employees, alumni, students, faculty, staff, just, helping out where we can, how we can, and spreading our joy.
Right, and so if you're interested in the development on the west side of Baltimore, and around Coppin, that whole West North Avenue corridor, you'll probably want to hear the conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Happening today.
Emmy-nominated Doni Glover will be interviewing us and others. This is a dope intro.
Yeah, that's comprehensive. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, we met us yesterday.
Hey.
Oh, on the like outside on the street. That's great to meet you.
Yeah.
Every day in that filthy facility.
Turn up. Yeah. Game time.
First name Doni, last name's Glover, in it to win it. Today, folks, we'll be talking with some of the partners of the West North Avenue Development Authority. For those who don't know, the West North Avenue Development Authority in Baltimore City was authorized by chapters 80 and 81 of 2021. The authority supports the development and approval of a comprehensive neighborhood revitalization plan in West North Avenue Development area, which is essentially north of Mount Royal all the way up to the junction. And its buffer zone, that's like 100 yards to the north and 100 yards to the south of North Avenue, to benefit West Baltimore, the residents, and improve housing, neighborhoods, economic development, transportation, including motor vehicles and pedestrian foot traffic, to be a catalyst of equitable economic development opportunities throughout West Baltimore, which has been hindered by a long history of disinvestment. With us today is Kathy Robinson, my dear friend from Sandtown, Winchester. We worked together for years in the Sandtown, Winchester Transformation Project. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Doni. How are you doing?
Good. We also have Khalil and Kiara Ukda. Did I pronounce it right? Ukda?
You sure did. Thank you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah.
Alhamdulillah. All right. So, Kathy, having known you so long, tell me about the West North Avenue Development Authority and what role you are playing in the transformation. This is the first money we've seen in West Baltimore since the empowerment zone, if I'm not mistaken. $28 million. Back then, the city, back in the empowerment zone, 99, 98, through about 2002, got $100 million in 6 village centers, 4 on the west side, 2 on the east side. But this is the first time some money has come specifically for our community. Talk to me, Kathy.
Well, this is an incredible opportunity, not only for Visionary Venture Partnership, which is our development firm, but also for all of West Baltimore that's involved with those 16 communities. And, we started together in Sandtown, as you said, but Visionary Venture Charities is our nonprofit. Visionary Venture Partnership is our for-profit. And so in 2020, Dr. Gina McKnight Smith brought together 8 of her sisters, all committed to community service, all committed to serving our communities in ways which others are not serving. And so the development arm is just an extension of what we've already committed to do. And so having the ability to do housing development in the WADA area is an extension of that community service. And so our strategic plan is in 2 communities. one in Easterwood and the other in Coppin Heights, Ashco East. And so we have this opportunity to bring housing development back to an area that's already got some strong roots, strong community partnerships, strong community associations, and we want to make sure that we help them thrive.
Well, I just want you to know, you know me from Santan. I've been living here since '92, but my mom had a house on Moreland Avenue, just opposite Easterwood Park in the 1500 block. And that's the greatest block in the world, let me tell you. I still say it. We had a park, it was a dead-end street, we had no trouble, nothing but love. Okay, Khalil, break it down. What's your role in the West North Avenue Development Authority, you and Kiara's?
Yeah, thank you for having us, and pleasure to be here speaking with everybody. We are excited to play a significant role in this project, not only now, but well into the future. You know, when Kiara and I started Charm City Buyers, it was under the idea of development without displacement, as well as collaboration over competition. So being able to work with other partners throughout the different areas to ensure that we are providing quality housing at relatively affordable and market rate prices, to not only help with just providing housing, but also with the overall development of an area. So that looks like green space. That looks like interactions with different neighbors. So with our award that we've received for the Live at Coppin area, we'll be providing some housing, which is our bread and butter. We've been doing it for the past 12 years. We've got the strong team and we're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, and we're really excited to do more intentional work in West Baltimore. So we've had some properties in West Baltimore for a while, but a lot of our projects have been over east. And so working with the West North Avenue Development Authority and Chad and the whole team, kind of pulling us to the west side to be able to add value and turn those vacants into homes and, do the work that we've done on the west side. On the east side, we're really excited to come over and specifically, work in and around Coppin. I'm not originally from Baltimore, but it's been, it feels like it often. I spent a lot of time down here as a child, but I'm not originally from Baltimore. But I did grow up a few blocks from, right up the street from an HBCU. And so I know the power of living in and around those types of institutions. So to be able to develop housing around Coppin is something that we're really excited about.
So where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up being able to hear parties and football games at Lincoln University. So I'm from outside of Philadelphia. Lincoln University areas where I grew up, where a lot of my family is from, and my dad is an alma mater.
Do they have similar challenges in Philadelphia?
So Philadelphia, the city, yes, I like to think of Philly as Baltimore City's cousin, right? So we have a very similar challenges between Baltimore and Philadelphia for sure. Philly has been really intentional about their vacancy challenges as well. There's been a lot of development there. I think what's great about Baltimore is that we can look at our cousin cities and other cities across the country to say what went well in developing a historically Black city, and what didn't, and how can we make better, intentional, strategic, thoughtful decisions, like the creation of the West North Avenue Development Authority. How can we be creative on solving the challenges that our city has to be able to not only add value in the communities, but really think about how we're adding value to those legacy residents. How are we bringing businesses? How are we providing jobs? How are we, really investing in the future of our neighborhoods? And I think that's really a cornerstone of what West North Avenue Development Authority is doing.
Kathy, touch on that for me, please. The historic disinvestment in the Black Butterfly, East Baltimore, West Baltimore, versus the White L, which is Johns Hopkins University, straight down to the harbor, over the East Harbor. Two different worlds.
Right. So we know that this investment occurred because of redlining. We know historically our folks couldn't get mortgages. And as other folks moved out of neighborhoods, they left rentals, and they didn't leave them in great shape. And so, what's the best opportunity to bring our neighborhoods back is home ownership. We have to be able to get mortgages. We have to be able to develop properties ourselves in order to make an impact. And we know from our experience in Sandtown, doing 1 and 2 properties at a time on a block does not make an impact.
Yeah.
So we have to find those properties where they have strong either rental or home ownership, and start from those blocks and build those blocks. And where we have high vacancy, we know we have to do more properties on that block. We've got to be able to do strategic planning in how we approach this. And that's what's so important with the way that WADA is approaching this, specifically with Live at Coppin, because you have a concentration of home ownership. And you have a concentration of blocks that you know are already strong, and you want to strengthen them. And where there are blocks that are not as strong, that's where we have to do more to make an impact. So we're working with the community associations, we're working with homeownership agencies in order to do marketing strategically so that we are not only developing these properties so that we're bringing other people to the community, but we're emphasizing that you can live in your own neighborhood in a home ownership property rather than renting. And you know that's really the way I started, right? So I bought my first house in Sandtown, 3 years out of school, and like 20 minutes from my parents, because it's all neighborhood, right? Okay. So I lived in Rosemont, which is also a WADA neighborhood. Sandtown is a WADA neighborhood. My partners lived in Easterwood, had businesses in Easterwood in the WADA neighborhoods. We have partners that went to Coppin, taught at the Bear School. So we've got a lot of roots in this community, and that's why it's so important to us that we're just not in it to develop a property, we're in it to develop a neighborhood, to continue the messaging that WADA has already started, to build on what's already here. So that's why it's so important to us that this project, Live at Coppin, as well as the Easterwood community and other communities, have an opportunity to thrive and to advance to home ownership and ownership itself.
Khalil, tell me about yourself.
Yes, sir. So thanks for asking. I'm a Baltimore native. Grew up in the Gwynn Oak area. Went to public school until 8th grade, where I went to Gilman School for upper school, 9th through 12th. I, being from Baltimore, being from the area, you can't help but fall in love with it. I remember driving down when I first got my license to Hammerjacks and Paradox, and just right when the club music scene came out, and it was such a vibe. I mean, those are fond memories that I will never forget. Waiting in line in the cold, waiting, and everybody just kind of like that communal heat, that communal energy, that communal vibe that like you just wanna reach out and grab your neighbor and laugh and have a good time. And that's what I think Baltimore is about, right? It's that art scene, it's that culture, it's that feeling. It's something unique. So when I went to Pennsylvania for school, when I went to live in Connecticut for a few years, I just didn't find that. And when I came back home, I'm like, wow, this is the place. So
you didn't name your public schools. You just
yeah. All right. So I went to.
I mean, Gilman is nice. I almost made it into Gilman, but what public school?
Man, we missed you. We missed you. I went to Powhatan Elementary, right there in Gwynn Oak, and then I went to Sudbrook Middle Magnet School.
Oh, okay, Sudbrook.
Yep.
Sudbrook hard to get into also.
Yeah, I think my parents must have done something right, Donnie?
So, what do you think of this transformation effort Tell me about Senator Hayes.
Yeah. Senator Hayes is a champion for the people. I think universally respected, known, liked. I grew up going to the Muslim Culture Center down there on North and Hilton, tucked in back there. And I remember going there and looking at North Avenue, and my parents, they, we loved walking up and down the street, and everything was fine. But there was something that I just felt wasn't right. Right? There was something off. So when you think about Senator Hayes and the different folks who are really involved and invested in creating the foundation to allow for the capital to flow into the area and correct the wrongs, the historic wrongs, it's a life passion. It's a full commitment that they have put themselves out there on the line for developers like us, like all of us, to perform, to activate, and to make sure that what they're doing and the foundation that they are laying is built upon, no pun intended, but just like a house, just like a home, right? So that when folks move in, they can feel that energy and they can create memories. We're not just creating bricks and mortars and different things. And Senator Hayes knows that. We're creating memories. We're creating times at the table, at the dinner table. We're creating opportunities for laughter and enjoyment and tears and blood and sweat. And that blood and sweat that Senator Hayes put into creating and others put into creating the West North Avenue Development Authority, making sure it's funded, making sure that the policies are allowing the capital to flow freely, making sure that the next tranche of funding is more. Big shout out to Senator Hayes.
Yeah, again, not being from here originally, what I've learned about Baltimore is there are some really amazing folks who are leading this private public partnership. I think what Baltimore folks have really come to understand is something that we value a lot, which is that collaboration over competition. And we all have a role in solving the problem and the challenges that it feels like a lot of us agree on that Baltimore City has. But we all have a role in making and creating the solutions that we want to see. And I love here, as we do our work and work with so many other people who are doing amazing things, just like Kathy and her organization, is play our part and collaborate with all of the folks who are doing their role as well. And Senator Hayes and, their delegates and so many other people are really focused on how do they create the policy that gives us the opportunity to do our part as well. And collectively, we're continuously moving things forward. And, the way the West North Avenue Development Authority has been structured and the foundation has been set, I really feel like won't only be a model for other areas in Baltimore City, but really as we think about development across the country. And so, Senator Hayes, this is his brainchild with some of the folks that he works with. And so we respect him so much and appreciate him so much for all that he does. But what has been said or what's to come with West North Avenue Development Authority, I think we're going to really see for generations to come. And that's a powerful thing.
So Khalil, you know Earl Alamein?
Yes, sir. I know Earl Alamein very well. Imam Earl Alamein.
The Imam.
Absolutely.
Powerful dude.
He is.
Nancy, how does it feel to see this next generation of developers who will be taking our place?
What do you mean taking our place?
We have been doing this work for 30 years plus.
Don't tell everybody.
But at some point, it's their time.
I have to commend all the developers that want to participate and make this city what we believe has the potential to be. I think, as they said, there's room for everyone. There is more than enough opportunity for everyone to thrive as a development team, because that's what we are. I mean, we're individual developers, but
you pioneered this, Kathy. Don't be modest. You pioneered this when nobody was willing to work in Sandtown. Nobody was willing to come here. We had all of these negative socioeconomic factors, this stigma, and there's still a stigma out here, except they don't tell the truth. And that's why I do BMORE News. That's why I wrote the Sandtown Winchester newspaper, because it is imperative that the truth be told. The truth is, as you mentioned earlier, as both of you mentioned earlier, the lack of investment, the redlining. Baltimore is the home of segregation going back to 1910 when J. Barry Mahul was the mayor, and he put in that ordinance up in Roland Park saying that blacks couldn't move into white neighborhoods and whites couldn't move into black neighborhoods. But today, when I look outside this window, I see white addicts running up and down the alley.
Yeah, you do. Because, you know, we are a little bit more inclusive than other neighborhoods. So we are accepting of all where other neighborhoods are not. And so that's how neighborhoods thrive. You know, you thrive with different economic impacts. You thrive with diversity. But we want to make sure that we're thriving through development. And, you know, you mentioned, you know, the younger developers. Hey, just a little bit, not much, just a little bit. But, you know, we can learn from the younger developers as well. And I think they can learn from us. And that's where the team comes in, because there are all types of new concepts and funding sources, and we want to be able to tap into all of those. We just hired a young architect that we expect will bring a new, fresh concept to housing development. And we can't wait to get started with that team. And we're going to learn from Charm City buyers. And we got a couple tricks up our sleeve where we can, you know, teach a few things as well. But we're all in this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just a little more seasoned.
And the wisdom that comes from the experience and the decades of, right? That's something that, you know, we like to surround ourselves with people who have that wisdom.
Yeah.
So
she was in the trenches, Khalil.
Yeah.
And he was in the trenches fighting for a neighborhood that many people have written off. And it's all based on the good old-fashioned American racism. You look at East Harbor, there are places in East Harbor that many people in West and East Baltimore would not even imagine. When you look at them, they even had a beach down there with sand.
Yeah.
We should have that in our neighborhoods. And they talk about our young people going over to Fells Point making noise. Well, put something in our neighborhoods. There are always these excuses. I just want to put this out here to you, Kathy. Just this is one question. It's burning my heart. What took so damn long? We got more, percentage-wise, we've got more black elected officials than any state in the country. We got the largest black caucus. Senator Hayes, he's got to be one of the youngest senators in history. What were these other guys doing?
You gotta have a champion. No matter whether you have a development team or you've got a community association, you got to have a champion that's able to go to Annapolis, to go to City Hall and get funding. Because we know with these properties, the cost to renovate the property exceeds the amount that we really want to sell it for, to make it affordable to people who already live there and to attract other folks. And that gap in funding is what has prevented developers from coming into the neighborhoods that need it the most. But when you have a champion like Senator Hayes, when you have a champion like Chad, that begins to speak to the commitment to the neighborhoods and the communities. That's what's been taking so long. Champions have not been identified, and now we have champions for these communities.
Kiara, tell me about Chad.
Chad he's so passionate about the work, and he is a ball of fun, right? So he is really someone who is kind of finding the energy and bringing the energy to the work that honestly is hard, right? And working and trying to push the policy can be challenging. And of course, he has Senator Hayes right there by his side, but this is a new organization being stood up in a neighborhood that really needs the work. And so Chad has been really, really great when it comes to not only getting folks like us and Kathy and everyone amped up and ready to go from a development perspective, but engaging with the communities and all of these city organizations and standing up a team, right? So not only is he preparing us to do our work, but he's building WADA from the ground. And so absolutely looking to Chad to continue that work and, build off the foundation that he set so that we can all continue to do the work that needs to be done. But I'm excited about Chad. I'm glad he's here in Baltimore. He adopted Baltimore as his own pretty fast, if you ask me, which is great and really helpful. And I'm excited to see the continued growth of the organization under his leadership.
Kathy, you remember Michael Randolph?
I remember the name.
Yeah, he put a comment. So this is Michael Randolph right here. He went down to Florida and never came back, old traitor. I remember you started your corporation. He was working with Ella with the Sandtown Winchester improvements. So.
Oh, yes. So that's how I started. I started working with Ella Johnson.
Mm.
Ella hired me.
Mm.
And it was so funny. I moved into Sandtown Winchester when Sandtown was just starting to be transformed, and became a member of the board and sat on the board of the.
You lived on Fulton Avenue, right?
Yeah, I lived at 900 Fulton Avenue, Fulton and Lafayette.
Okay.
And probably would still be there. But we lived on the second and third floor, and once my kids started with the bikes, it was like looking at Mount Everest. So we had to get something a little bit lower. But we loved living there, and that's why I became a member of the board. And then when a position became available with the Development Corporation, I became the executive director. So, I mean, I live and speak the truth of Sandtown. And all of these communities, I mean, they have similarities. And so, I still own the house that I lived in as a kid in Rosemont, which is one of the WADA areas. 5 generations have lived in that house. And so that's what we're talking about, generational wealth, making sure that we have something for our kids, and they have something for their kids. Yeah. And so, it's just a tremendous opportunity, and we're so happy to be part of WADA.
Khalil, I wrote a book back in 2021. This is my second book. I gotta work with this lighting here. It's called I Am Black Wall Street.
Mm.
There we go. And I look at not just Tulsa, Oklahoma, but also Bronzeville in Chicago, Black Bottom in Detroit, Auburn Avenue in Atlanta. We look at Burlington Island, New Jersey, known as the cradle of emancipation. We look at New York City, Seneca Village in between 82nd and 89th Street. Over in Brooklyn, we look at Weeksville. We look at East Texas, which had 500 black towns. Mm. When you think of that history, that legacy, because these things are not taught to us in school. I don't know really what they attempt to teach us in school, but we have a powerful legacy. And now you hail from Liberty Heights and Gwynn Oak. That's a nice middle-class neighborhood. What do you foresee for West North Avenue, especially given, the blood, sweat, and tears that Kathy Robinson has put in? She's lived in these neighborhoods, not just worked there, but she's lived there. That's putting your money where your mouth is. Mm-hmm. What do you foresee in terms of the vision? The Bible says, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Mm-hmm.
I think the universal answer should be that we see a thriving, economically rising community, a great area that's coming to that West North Avenue corridor. You know, they say that energy is neither created nor destroyed; it's simply transferred. So all of that legacy energy, all of that power, all of that ancestral wisdom has to go somewhere, and it goes back to us, right? It travels through the different times, dimensions. Sorry, I'm gonna go a little bit deep here, and it comes to us. And for those who happen to be blessed to be open to receive it, or those who are positioned where their influences, their family, their friends can block out the negative and allow for the positive to truly fill them. It's an obligation to continue to pour, right? When your cup is full, you have to pour. And in pouring, we can create and recreate a lot of these historic towns in the modern day. And that's where people like us come together, the four of us, people like Chad, Senator Hayes, Delegate Amphrey, Rashid Aziz, Imam Alameen, like all of us have to come together and use that ancestral energy and that power and that wisdom and translate it into the secular world. And how that translates is we can see visually new houses, elimination of blight. We can see green space in parks, transportation that's equitable for everybody to be able to access, increased public safety. We can see all of those positive changes, and that's just a matter of energy transfer. So it's here, right? There's no question about it. It's never gone. It's right here. We just have to turn in the key and activate it. We just have to unlock it. We have to work together and be able to translate it into today's world.
In Islam, they say, Hayya la salat, Hayya la falah. Come to prayer, come to success.
That's right.
How important is the spiritual energy?
Man, listen, this is a whole episode. That spiritual energy is the foundation, especially for our people. Right, we've had to rely so heavily on it, and and rightfully so, because it's such a strong energy that really we don't fully understand. We respect, we love it, we know how to use it in the way that it wants to be used. But there's so many people that really just don't quite understand. It's such an esoteric kind of out of the box thinking. But it's strong, it's powerful, it's the foundation, it's what drives, it creates the why and the passion, and when you see somebody who has it, you can't. It's undeniable that they feel that spiritual energy, and it oozes through their pores, and it's like it's an old friend, right? It's a distant cousin who, like, wow, like, I didn't realize I knew you, but I must have known you from a past life or a future life. Like there's a energy between Kiara and I, right? I'll tell you a quick story. When a week before I met Kiara in college, I saw her in a dream, right? And I tell her that, and I remember seeing her, and there was this light behind her. So then a week later, when I walked into the room, there was some kind of light behind her. It was a physical light, and I could see the silhouette just like I saw it in the dream. Those are the pieces. Those are the spiritual energies. Those are the things that when you see it and you feel it and you grab onto it, you're like, something's here. I can't articulate it with words because they aren't powerful enough to really understand and unlock what that energy is. Doni, man, the spiritual energy is critical.
Yeah.
I know you get ready to jump in, but I'm gonna cut you.
Yep.
Have you walked up and down North Avenue?
Absolutely. And
have you, hold tight. Have you seen the trauma?
Yeah.
On the faces. Damn near every block has a liquor store. There's a food desert. You can't get a Brussels sprout between Lexington Market and Mondana.
Right.
Not one Brussels sprout, not one string bean. How do we replicate your Romeo Juliet thing there? How do we, because it's spiritual. I mean, we got 70% single mother household. We got recidivism. Santerre Winchester's the home of it. So many people from the institutions, Jessup, Hagerstown, Patuxent Institute for the Criminally Insane, they come back to these neighborhoods, 70% recidivism, children with no fathers, poor elementary schools. And then they have the audacity to take a name like George G. Kelson off of the name of a school and rename it the Santerre Winchester Academy. People with no history, with no nutrition, nothing but liquor, heroin, cocaine, crack cocaine. How do we, let alone the violence, care, how do we replace that negative with the spiritual energy, the positive energy that Khalil is talking about? How do we do it?
Yeah, I think what's really important is that we are representing what we want to see, right? And so we're providing those examples. So when Khalil yesterday went to an elementary school and helped build a playground, right? Being able to see someone from Baltimore coming back into your school and doing that. When, folks ask us to come and talk about housing at different schools, right? Being visible and connecting with the folks in the community and walking up and down the street, right? And just being there, I think, is important. A lot of times when I think about housing and the state that a lot of housing is in, we have children walking past these dilapidated buildings, falling down all day that no one invests in. It's psychological trauma. And so if you see no value in my community, how do you see value in me? And so Khalil and I try personally, not only to, make sure folks know that we're here as young folks who can, we have an 11-year-old daughter, so we can kind of chat with the even younger folks than we are. But beyond that, remember that it's not just us, right? And so there are a large number of representation of folks who really just need to make sure that they're going into these communities and to your point, Donnie, not just investing their dollars, but investing their time into the neighborhoods that we really look to uplift and become part of those communities. We went to a night under the stars in South Baltimore the other day and hung out in a community there that we have fallen in love with as developers, but also want to connect and work with the community and hopefully they, see something in us as well. And so, I think it's really important that we are not just kind of spending our days swinging our hammers in the neighborhood, but again, spending our time, spending our treasure, connecting with the kids, hiring from the neighborhood, right? To do the work in the project, in the construction project. And how are you, connecting with the community association and make sure that folks are being prepared to buy the houses that you're doing. And we're talking about, what tax credits are out there, making sure folks are doing the paperwork and have the support to get the work done so that as the neighborhoods develop, which a lot of people want to see, that they aren't negatively impacted with their property taxes. And so, really being able to balance the work that can be complicated a lot of times when we're doing houses where the construction is more than the value of the house and we have to pull all these subsidies and there's a lot that goes behind doing the work, but not forgetting the people. And there's people who live in these neighborhoods and there's people who are moving into these homes and there's people who are going to the school up the street. And it's important that, there's a full circle, holistic approach to development. And that is not easy for a lot of investors and developers to do. And so, when we think about the speculation and, I'm just going to go buy this house for $1 or $5,000 and I'm going to, cash out in Baltimore, what we are really vocal about leveraging social media is, one, don't do that here. We don't want y'all here to do that. And not only because it's not going to be as helpful to the community when we think about community first development, but chances are you're going to fail because you don't know what you're doing anyway, right? And so we really try to represent Baltimore as not only a city of opportunity, of culture, of vibes, like Khalil talked about earlier, but one that has a challenging history that makes a complicated present. But if we can, one, focus on education and understanding, take the time to learn the history and really place value not only in the monetary of doing the house itself, but really understand the value of the people of Baltimore. I think that's when you start to get that spirit and you feel that, all of the things that Khalil we're talking about, you can take a little bit more. You're going to see more than just the bricks, right? You're going to see when you're going down North Avenue and there's vacant buildings, you're not just going to see the vacant buildings, you're going to see the architecture, right? You're going to see, the remnants of what North Avenue was for a really long time, commercially and from, a community perspective and jobs and all of those things. And so that energy is still there. We just have to know what to look for and understand the importance and the responsibility a lot of times on how you actually get that work done.
See, what you just described is the difference between development and house flipping.
Yes, absolutely.
And, it's so crucial that we have more developers and less house flipping. Because development is not only the house, right? It's also the community. And that's why it's called community development.
Community development, that's right.
Yep.
And so in neighborhoods that need the most, need housing, need grocery stores, it's not only about the house, it's about a holistic approach to developing the community so that we all thrive. Being able to, and I describe this as urban. Urban, the differences between urban and suburban, you're able to walk to all of the needs in order to make a community thrive. You can walk to the grocery store. You can walk to your elementary school or your middle school. You can walk and get your hair done, or get a haircut. All of the things that are right there within walking distance makes a community, and that's why Baltimore is a neighborhood of communities. And you can go 2 blocks over, as Doni described. You can go 2 blocks over, and it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different feel. And you have to look at it. Each neighborhood has its own characteristics, right? And 2 blocks over is a different characteristic. The architecture may be the same, but the people are different. And how do you get that same interest in bringing back not only housing, but commercial development? Because North Avenue is a mix. It's a mix of commercial development and residential development. And how do you slow down the traffic on North Avenue? How do you make it more walkable?
Oh, you know I ain't gonna go for that.
No. I don't want you to go there. but it's an interesting kind of quandary in how you make North Avenue and then the buffer zones, and then moving out from there more in keeping with what we want to see as community development. Because housing may be number one on the list, but everything trickles down from that, including those partnerships that you mentioned with schools and businesses. So I'm glad you put that up, because, house flipping has a different connotation. You're in and you're out. You're not in for the long haul.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just want to jump in
We're
here.
in for the long haul.
All of us. That's
Oh,
right.
Absolutely.
Khalil, you mentioned hammer jacks and how it touched your generation. I'm from the Odell's generation.
Okay. Yeah.
And I bet you Kathy been to Odell's once or twice too.
You know if you belong.
Kathy, how is it that you still care?
Oh, man. Like I said, we all took a commitment to community service, my partners and I. And it was long before we came together to do housing development. So community service is ingrained in us. And community service goes beyond, the weekends. It's every day. You live it. And no matter whether we are building a house, or we're at a school, or we are planting a tree, it's the long-term effects on communities that really gives us the power to want to do more, to want to be more influential in our own communities. So there's no time limit on commitment.
Mm.
So we got to keep fighting the fight.
Rashid Aziz's name was mentioned. Citywide Youth Development right there in the 2100 block of West North Avenue, just opposite the notorious P&M bar. This man has put in $2-3 million building, and now he's doing an expansion, which is supposed to go all the way to Pulaski Street. Can anybody tell me the significance of a Rashid Aziz? I mean, he's a pioneer, and big ups not just to Senator Hayes, but also to the last Lieutenant Governor, Boyd Rutherford, who actually put his money where his mouth is. We've had a lot of Democrat, and it's coming up on election time. And I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Baltimore's a 9-1 Democratic city. State of Maryland's a 2-1 Democratic state. Yet, I remember it was Bob Ehrlich that first put money into Coppin when Dr. Calvin Burnett was there. Bob Ehrlich put more money into Coppin than all of the Democrats combined. And Coppin's campus expanded all the way up to Gwynns Falls, all the way down to Baker Street, replacing a notorious neighborhood, which included Warwick Avenue, Thomas Avenue, and Whitmore. And having grown up around there, I can tell you those were some of the toughest, roughest dudes in the neighborhood. They took no prisoners, but we also lost a lot of people in that vicinity. But it also, that was 2002, but 2014 when Hogan came in, he also put money into Walbrook Lumber Mill in that area right next door to Coppin, and he put money, like I said, Boyd Rutherford, Lieutenant Governor Rutherford put money into Rashid Aziz. And I guess that's more of a comment, more of a historical rundown, but our Democratic officials, we have not because we ask not. And I just thank God for an Antonio Hayes who was able to work across the aisle to bring $28 million and having helped Westmore when he was down in single digits. Francho was leading the race. I'm so glad that we picked the right horse. Because he did put the money there. And that's what it's really about. See, black people, I don't know if you know this, Kiara, but blacks in Baltimore, Northwest Baltimore County, Prince George's County, when those three jurisdictions are on the same page politically, anybody who has their support wins. Democrat, Republican, black, white, what have you. And that's what I write about in my first book, Unapologetically Black. The significance of the interrelationship of politics and economics. Too often, we are political neophytes, Kathy. We vote for this person. We're more Democrat than we are Baptist. We're more married to the Democratic Party party sometimes more than we are in love with our own church. But if it doesn't manifest, if it doesn't bring home the bacon, like in Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, if you ain't bringing back the bacon, then we're just going through the motions. Just my thought. So I'm glad. It's long overdue.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
no doubt about it.
Any thoughts that we haven't covered?
Any thoughts that we haven't covered? Well, I just want to say that it's been a pleasure to be part of this platform, to bring to the attention, the neighborhoods that need the most, to bring to the attention. We've got some dynamic, young, bright developers on with the seasoned developers. We're going to make sure that this happens this time. This is not going to be a one and done. We have the attention of politicians. We have the attention of the lenders. We have the attention of the grant writers and the foundations, because 16 neighborhoods makes a big impact.
Never. Unprecedented.
Yeah.
Unprecedented. Never have people in Sandtown and Walbrook Junction work with people down in Reservoir Hill. Unprecedented and, quite frankly, ingenious.
Right.
I'll tell you this. I need to see every elected official, not just Senator Hayes and what's the young man's name? The delegate who shows up.
Delegate Amphrey?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Amphrey.
Yep.
I need to see Melissa Wells and Frank Conaway. Who's the other one, Kathy? Is it Frank Conaway Jr.? Is that the 40th? Was it? The council people.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
I need to see them, the state senator, the U.S. senator, the Congress people. We need them all there, because this has never happened before. Even the empowerment zone wasn't this all inclusive. And what politician wouldn't show up when you got 16 neighborhoods?
Right.
So I would hope, from a political standpoint, because that's my bailiwick, is that more of us reach out to these elected officials. And you said it early on, Khalil, collaboration without competition, but also holding them accountable. Because I think we as a community, we don't hold these elected officials accountable. Marion Barry told me once, if they don't do what you need done, vote the bums out. Senator Hayes, champion. He's been working in Annapolis City Hall going back to the 90s. And he's a young man. He's got more experience, more tenure than politicians twice his age. And so Kathy's going to support you. I'm going to support you. But you represent the people who are going to be who with the legs. You the running back. And so we need you to be proactive. You got the bull by the horns, keep it by the horns. And pass the ball, so that when you reach our age, you got some people on deck ready to take the reins too, and you can be, up on the hill on a horse saying, hey, this is how you do this.
Yeah, now, you talked about that horse. We're not going out to pasture.
Look, Kathy says, stop trying to put me out. I know, Kathy, there's so much work that I'm excited to do with you for a while. So, but it's your call when you're ready to go on the horse.
But Doni, I think you brought up a really important point, like continuing to pay it forward and pass it down and pass that torch. And that's something.
America has made us stingy.
Yeah.
But I'm so reminded that we are only 13% of the population. Look at what we have accomplished. Right. Any and every discipline that is out there, that we get into, that we break through, we dominate.
Yeah.
Despite the negative socioeconomic factors, despite the recidivism, the single mother household, even though in the 40s and 50s we were the most married community, despite all of those things, we still strong.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at Granville, his name escaped me, last name escaped me, the inventors that come out of our race. Patents in 1865. I read about a man today who, the black man who created the first street sweeper. All of these things that we have been a part of. And so I have high expectations for you two. We know what Kathy can do. We know what I can do. But we have very high expectations for you. And I'm not going to let you slide.
I appreciate that. I need my ancestral power, my brothers, to hold us accountable, keep us going. It gives us hope. It gives us faith, and it allows us to continue performing. I think when it comes to paying it forward and being able to groom the next generation, Kiara has done a fantastic job with just leveraging technology and positioning the Charm City Buyers brand to allow for so many other people to start or accelerate their journey into like positive community work, development, providing homes.
I'm gonna tell you also an unsung hero in this whole process that I better mention because I like to eat. Her name is Teresa Thornton. I don't know if you know her history, but she has been long engaged in the transformation of West Baltimore, beginning in Upton. She had a beautiful garden, among other things. And we worked together on the historic Pennsylvania Avenue Cadillac Parade, which has been on hiatus. But I've also worked with a couple of police officers, and we did a few in the past 7 years or so. But Pennsylvania Avenue, just so you know, is so much more than Freddie Gray. We've had some of the most dynamic parades, but the legacy goes back to the Royal Theater and the block I live on here in Carlton Avenue. That's where the performers would stay because blacks couldn't stay in the hotels downtown because, again, this is the home of segregation. Kathy, I'm going to give you the final word. So you can take it.
Final word. I think we all have an incredible opportunity to make an impact in our community. And we're so eternally grateful for that opportunity that WADA has given us. We're going to be looking for the assistance of all of the developers to make that impact. Developers, community developers, for the long haul. Not one and done, not three and done, but for the long haul. And so Visionary Venture Partnership and Visionary Venture Charities are going to be right there in the trenches for that long haul. And we appreciate the opportunity that you've given us, Doni. We appreciate the opportunity of WADA and of Chad and all that have given us, the funding to really start. And we're going to make this and leverage it so that we can do more.
Absolutely.
Up the day, down tomorrow, do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.
All right.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doni. This was great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
This will be on BMOREnews.com by tomorrow. Right now, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Doni, D-O-N-I Glover. YouTube.com/Doni Glover.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Khalil, it's such a pleasure.
It really is. Likewise.
Talking about social media, that's one area we can really use some assistance.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about it. We got the social media part. So
yeah.
So yeah, one of the things, actually, I'll reach out to you because we're going to start doing some podcasting on our YouTube. And so I'm kind of putting together a list of folks to reach out to. So everyone kind of keep an eye on your email. So we're going to start doing some of those on our channel and continue to highlight the other folks who are doing great work on in Baltimore who may not have the social media. So.
And you too, Donnie. We'll be reaching out. I hope you
Absolutely.
can clear your calendar and give us an hour.
We've been around for 22 years. We've got the largest YouTube library of any Black news outlet in the country, over 7,000 videos.
Wonderful.
Wow.
I love that.
Good deal. Have a great day, everyone.
You as well.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
What y'all think? That was fun.
Yeah, so that's cool. So that was BMORE News Online with Doni Glover. Really dope conversation. So if you didn't catch the whole thing, I would suggest either going back and watching this or heading to YouTube on Doni Glover's YouTube channel. It was actually a really, not that I'm surprised that it was a great conversation, but sometimes you never quite know what direction the call is going to go. But it's nice to be able to spend some time and think about the impact and how to leverage the dollars that are coming from these organizations more and more nowadays. It feels like we're starting to see some funding flow a lot easier than it seems like it did in the past. But yeah, it's great to have a conversation about how that really impacts the people of today and tomorrow and all the passion that goes behind it. So yeah, absolutely. I've got nothing to add, but I don't know, my wheels were turning as I was speaking and as I was listening and participating. I think that means he's about to make us do some work.
Yeah.
It's Friday. But yeah, so anyway, I hope y'all have a great rest of your Friday and we'll talk soon. Bye. Can't reach. You can show them that I ain't